Hello and welcome to this Explore Analytics training module. Today we're going to go over the very basics of building our first list report. List reports are great for displaying sets of data and being able to really get the details, and they're going to be similar to any other type of view that you create in Explore Analytics. There's a few different ways that you can create a report, but the most common one is to go to the File menu and select New View. Once you've selected a new view, you need to select a source of data that you're going to be querying for the list. So I'm going to use my ServiceNow dataset and select the incident table. You'll notice that there's an autocomplete available, so I'm going to select the incident table and select Next. So now I'm going to give this view a name. We're going to call it my first list view. And I'm going to select the type, which in this case we discussed making it a list. I can optionally decide to add this new view to favorites if I'd like, but for the moment I'm just going to click Finish. Now an important pop-up just appeared that says that the report was created and every change will be saved. So it's important to note that just like when you're working in a Google Doc, changes are immediately saved. They don't need to be manually saved. Alright, now we're looking at our first list view, and you'll notice that it has some selected fields. It's showing me some of the columns from my data. And on the left-hand menu, instead of looking at the favorites, we're now looking at what we call the Choose Fields dialog. In this case, it calls its list fields because the type of report we're looking at is a list, but these views always have a Choose Fields dialog. At any point, I can dismiss it, or I can take a look at the favorites menu. If I ever need that back, this Choose Fields button that's in this top row of buttons is what's going to bring me to this list of Choose Fields. The Choose Fields is what defines what we're actually viewing in the report. So for example, you'll notice that in this Selected Fields area, it says number, caller, short description, etc. And that's the fields that are being displayed in that order. So if I wanted to look at the caller first, I drag that, and now you can see that I'm looking at that in the order of the selected fields. I can select from any of the fields that are here in this available fields. It's showing me all the fields I have access to on this table. And these little arrows allow me to walk onto related tables. So if I want to look at the assigned to, that's a reference to another table, and see what fields are available on that table, I can. If I want to select one of these fields, let's say the manager of the person who's assigned to this task, I drag that from the available into the selected fields, and you'll notice that this brings that column right here. Now, one of the things you'll notice is that every time I'm making a change to this report, it's querying the data and bringing it back to me. Because Explore Analytics is real time, if I bring a date time field, like the closed date time, it queries and gathers that data. I can also make changes to any of these fields by relabeling them or otherwise, changing any aspects of them by clicking on the field and clicking this pencil icon. You'll notice that this field settings dialog appears, and the first thing it has is the label. So if I wanted to just say manager for this, I could. In this case, it's also auto-generating a hyperlink. I don't need to worry about that now, but if in the future I might need to do that. And I can click OK. And now this column is called Manager. It hasn't impacted any of the other reports or the data source that we're pulling this from. It just allows me to, in this individual view, name things the way that I want to name them. I can also add calculated fields using this column right here. This calculator icon right here. So for example, we added that close date. If I wanted to pull the year, right, so I'm going to use this function called year from the selective function and put that here, and grab the closed field, and I'll close this parentheses and we'll call this closed year. We won't go too far into detail, but just so that you know, I can now create this calculated column that's here. And you'll see that it's taking from this closed date time and just pulling out the year. Now, there's a lot of power and capabilities with relabeling and with calculations to be able to really format the data and present the data in the way that you want to. But for right now, just know that those are ways that you can add calculated fields, ways that you can configure the fields that you're looking at to display in the way that you would like it to display. I can also remove fields that I'm not interested in. So let's say I want to just remove everything after category, just so I can show just the very basics. Again, that's using this X that's right here when I select a field. There's a couple more key pieces of information and actions you can take using these controls that are at the top. The first is that there's this breadcrumb that's always going to show me what I'm looking at and where it sits in the hierarchy. So I've created a report called My First List View EA on the incident table in the ServiceNow data source. So I always know that's what's the data I'm looking at. If I ever need to refresh this view, by clicking on the name of the view, it'll refresh the data. And if I want to, I can click the incident to see the list of views that are also on the incident table, or go to the data source to see what tables are available there. From this row of buttons right here, we talked about choose fields to bring back this left menu. I can also select the filter data button to do some and or condition filters. So for example, if I want only the ones where the closed is not null, which means not empty, and the category is in, just for example, and I can select multiple, so I'll say network or database, and then important, click apply filter changes. Now it's going to filter the data based on what's presented there. I can also filter by right-clicking and either selecting show matching or exclude. So if I say exclude, it's going to remove any of the incidents where there is no manager. So you see that it's added that to that filter. All of these are filters that are using the filter data. The filter output is something that is a very unique feature within Explore Analytics. It allows you to filter not the data that's going into the report, but the information that's coming out. This will be more important when it comes to charts and pivots and other calculations, but for here, you can use this to filter any of the calculated fields that we're looking at. So for example, this closed year, I can say, well, show me only where the year is 2016. The top N button is very useful especially when you're first creating reports. The top N allows you to limit how many rows come back. So in this case, just so that every time I made a change, it comes back quickly, I'm actually having it only display the first 10 rows. So that's a really quick way that you can very easily just say, hey, only bring me the information that I need at the time that I need it. Often I'll do this when I'm first creating a report so that I can make changes very quickly, and then when I'm done, hit the clear button and hit OK, so it will load. And then lastly, sorting. I can sort through doing multiple levels of sort. So for right now, it's the caller from A to Z. I could say, and then within that, do the category from A to Z. Or I can also sort by clicking on the column header. So for example, if I click the category, it'll now show it to me alphabetized by category. Or if I select manager, it'll sort it for me by manager. You should also explore right-clicking and seeing what other capabilities are available whenever you have these views. Here we have one called coloring rules. So for example, let's suppose I wanted to color code the category. So if the category is database, we want the background color to be a light yellow. And if it's network, we want the background color to be a light pink. So this is a really quick way for me to be able to color code and color coordinate so that, again, we're presenting the data in the richest way possible to the folks who are viewing this. Thanks for watching this first training module on how to build a list view. In future videos, we'll cover doing similar for pivots and charts, and also things like distributing and sharing these reports.